Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you're standing in a room full of people. Voices overlap. Laughter fills the space. Everyone seems involved, connected, alive. But you? You feel like a ghost drifting through a celebration you were never actually part of. You're there physically, but emotionally, not really. You nod, you smile, you play your role, but nothing reaches you. Nothing sinks in. And here's the truth you never say out loud. You don't feel lonely because you're alone. You feel lonely because you're surrounded and still feel unknown. That's the kind of ache that doesn't leave a bruise. It leaves a silence. You've spent years building a version of yourself that feels acceptable, calm, competent, low maintenance. A version that doesn't take up too much space. Over time, that version became your mask. And somewhere along the way, you confused being included with being understood. You confused being around people with being connected to them. You confused emotional numbness with peace. But here's the paradox. The same armor that protected you as a child is now suffocating you as an adult. You're lonely not because people don't care, but because they've never met the real you. Because you never felt safe enough to show them. Deep down, a belief lives inside you. If I show who I am, I'll be rejected. And that belief has shaped every relationship you've had since. Part 2. Definition and psychological authority. This specific kind of loneliness has a psychological fingerprint. It doesn't come from being isolated. It comes from something deeper. Emotional misattunement. A disconnect between your inner world and the world around you. 3 psychological forces shape this experience. 1. Hypervigilance. This starts in childhood, usually in unpredictable environments. Maybe a parent's mood changed without warning. Maybe criticism was constant. Maybe your feelings were dismissed or ignored. So your nervous system learned to survive by scanning for danger. You became the child who watched everyone closely. Tone, silence, posture, expression. And as an adult, you overthink every interaction. You study people instead of connecting with them. You stay on guard even around those you love. Hypervigilance builds walls, not bridges. 2. Avoidant attachment. Avoidant attachment isn't about avoiding people. It's about avoiding depending on people. You learned early that no one consistently soothed you, so you learned to soothe yourself. And you built your identity around emotional independence. You become functional, but distant. Reliable, but unreachable. Present, but not fully there. People get the surface of you, the polished version. The rest stays locked inside. 3. Emotional neglect schema. This wound isn't created by abuse. It's created by absence, by what didn't happen. Maybe no one mirrored your emotions. No one named your feelings. No one made you feel emotionally held. So you internalized a painful message. My emotions don't matter. And it follows you into adulthood. You minimize your needs. You numb uncomfortable feelings. You speak less, share less, expect less. You offer people tiny pieces of you and withhold the rest. Loneliness around people creates a specific kind of grief, invisible grief, a grief with no funeral, no closure, no acknowledgement, because it isn't caused by someone leaving, but by the absence of feeling understood. Carl Jung said, "Loneliness does not come from being alone, but from being unable to communicate what is important to you." That sentence is your entire emotional autobiography. You're not missing conversation. You're missing resonance. You're not missing company. You're missing connection. And it shows up everywhere. You laugh with people, but feel empty inside. You join conversations, but never feel part of them. You care deeply, but feel replaceable. You crave closeness, but fear exposure. Underneath it all lies the same core fear. If someone sees the real me, they will leave. So you hide, you shrink, you stay emotionally small. Every time you do, you reinforce a silent contract. I'll keep my truth buried if you promise not to reject me. People stay, but the loneliness stays too, because the connection is built on your mask, not on your authentic self. Part 4. Adult Manifestation and Unlearning. This loneliness doesn't appear randomly. It's an extension of your survival strategies. Here's how it shows up in adulthood. 1. Relationships. You might avoid deep intimacy. Choose emotionally distant partners. Feel drained by vulnerability. Struggle to articulate feelings. Avoid conflict at all costs. You don't fear love. You fear the exposure love requires. 2. Career. You become the reliable one, the calm one, the one who never complains. People admire your stability, but rarely see your humanity. 3. Self-worth. You measure your value by productivity, by how useful you are, by how little trouble you cause. You rarely feel like anyone's emotional priority. 4. Boundaries. You're not bad at setting boundaries. You're scared of the consequences. So you become accommodating, easygoing, pleasant, low maintenance, emotionally manageable. 5. Emotional regulation. You might shut down instead of expressing, detach instead of feeling, overthink instead of trusting, feel numb in moments that should feel joyful. Your nervous system is wired for survival, not connection. 6. Internal identity. You live with two versions of yourself: the external self people admire, and the internal self almost no one ever meets. The unlearning begins with one shift. Stop believing connection requires self-erasure. Start witnessing your patterns instead of judging them. Awareness is the first crack in the armor. Part 5. Healing and Affirmation. Healing this kind of loneliness isn't about finding new people. It's about finally turning toward yourself. Here are the real grounded steps. 1. Inner